Well, good evening, everybody. Thanks for attending this evening's session, the last session of ESX, so thanks for your attendance. My name's Chad Peterson. I'm with ADT's Authorized Dealer Program. Today's discussion is going to circle around how to promote your company through public relations. The topic is, just as I mentioned, how to promote your company through public relations. Very few full service companies are sending out press releases or even know how to do so. They also don't know how to take full advantage of PR in the industry or their local communities. The discussion will revolve around what editors are looking for, how to communicate with them, and how to prepare for interviews. Panelists today are Mr. Ralph Jensen of Security Products, Jerry Lenander, Executive Director of the California Alarm Association, and Ms. Deborah O'Mara, Editor-in-Chief, Security Dealer and Integrator Magazine. So I'll go ahead and you guys take it from here.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely.
Get this microphone. Well, welcome. Are you able to hear that?
Can you guys
Is that
hear
good? You start by saying thank you for holding your applause, but we'll save that till the end. I want to start just brief introductions. You mentioned I'm the Executive Director of the California Alarm Association. We also, we're a management consulting firm. So we also run a state training program for apprentices, federal program. We work on book publishing. We publish the Mirror, the Monitor, and the Sentinel, which are three state association newsletters. And so as executive director and providing those services, it's integrated. So we have to do public relations. We have to do our writing. We have to work with both trade and consumer media. We do public policy, public affairs, and if we're not paying attention, we end up doing crisis communication. So so that's what we do, and I asked Deb, go ahead. And
I'm Deborah O'Mara. I'm the editor of Security Dealer and Integrator Magazine, and we're the voice of the Systems Integration Channel. And I've been with the magazine about 5 years now. I've been in the industry a long time, and I know that there's a need for better public relations in the industry, and there's a lot of simple things that you can do to get your company noticed and to get yourself branded more in the industry. And I'm going to turn it over to Ralph.
Thank you very much. My name is Ralph C. Jensen. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Security Products Magazine, and I have been with Security Products Magazine since it started 17 years ago, and in one form or fashion was named the Editor-in-Chief about 10 years ago. Like Deb mentioned, we depend on PR folks to give us a hand, but there's certainly a need to learn more, to help you understand what we're looking for, so we can help pass your message along as well. Thank you.
all right, thanks, Ralph. So now in this next portion, I'm just going to give you some notes from myself, and then Deb and Ralph will do the same thing. Mine's kind of the blanket thing. We live in a world of acronyms, so SEAC and ISC and SIA and ESSA, ESA, whoever, all those things. So ours, for public relations, we work with Power Public Relations. So I just want to go through briefly on that. And the P is position, product, person, philosophy. That's, what are you selling? What's your service? What's your message? What are you doing? If you're a manufacturer, sometimes you have a product or a service. Sometimes if you apply it to political things, or even in public affairs, public policy that the industry works on. But spend some time on that and see what it is, and so really hone down on what you do. And don't always go to the natural instinct of what you think it is. I don't know, enhanced call verification, does anyone know what that is? Where you make 2 calls from a central, you call the house and then you call the cell. That came out about 9 years ago. I happened to be at the meeting where they were talking about it out in LA, and they said, we're going to do that to reduce false alarms. And I said, well, why don't you tell them it's customer service enhancement? And because that's what it is, and I think that's what it's become. So think differently about what you're doing, what you're selling as a manufacturer or a service provider, installing company. The second part is organization. So organization. And that's just a time where you say, you get yourself organized. Who's your target? You know, who's your ultimate target if it's a consumer at that end? What's your intermediary? How are you going to do that? Sometimes that's the editors. Sometimes it could be organizations. But you have to get yourself organized. If you determine it's trade media editors, then get yourself organized, spend the time, find out who they are, find out if they have specialties. A lot of the trades have specialty columnists, you know, who work on technical issues or management issues. So you need to know that. So know who that is if that's where you're going. On your in your home, on the consumer side, you know, newspapers. I was in LA. LA Times had a front page, a feature page, a ladies page, a food page, a sports page. You know, and when we did sports, you know, we certainly had to have, like we did Virginia Slims, the women's tennis. So you want the sports, you want the coverage, you want the features, but then we had to come up with how are we going to get the food section to do it. And back in the day, Martina Navratilova gave her favorite courtside snack that she would make. And at Hollywood Park Racetrack, we came up with Kentucky Derby Day, and for the food radio, it was how you make your own mint julep. So that's, you know, as you start to get organized, look at all those things, and then before you even start. W is worth. It actually means value, but I didn't want to say public relations, so we go with W, which is worth and value. Spend some time considering who cares, you know, who really cares, who's this of value to that you talk to. You don't want to talk to a sports guy or a weatherman about something that they don't really care. Even on your consumer side, this goes back to the positioning and philosophy and product to say, who really cares, who values this, who would take this information and then maybe be able to take action on it, you know. At conferences and things, it's all kinds of communication, but if you see a note taken that they then come back, they take that back to the office Monday, that's a good sign. So the same thing when you're communication. E is for events, and I just say, don't do events. Instinct is to do it because it'll be really fun, but it's too much work because you got to go back to value. Who really wants to do that? I worked at a college where the Deputy Secretary of Education come in. They'd given us $250,000. We had it for 3 months. He was doing a drive-by one at a press conference, so we did it. Well, there was no press there, but he didn't know that. We kind of whisked him through. We had students and cameras and stuff and took some pictures, and off he went and didn't do it. But so events are really not, I mean, you have to be really cautious because you don't want to be sitting there, and if you don't do your work, no one's going to be there because there's no value or you didn't know who would be interested in that. I think the final one is for results, and that's a normal thing. You constantly revise. You know, what's our impact? What's our placement? Did we get it? I worked with Kentucky Fried Chicken. You know, we called them clucks. We needed our clucks, which meant if we could get on TV or radio and they said the KFC songwriting contest, that counted as a cluck. And so you want to get placement and do that stuff. But you're constantly reviewing and revising and measuring the results, seeing if you're getting a response. I'll give you one example. Is there any alarm dealers here? Any alarm dealers? Okay. Anyone here involved in the National Scholarship Program with ESA in your local state? Well, yeah. So we did this we do it statewide, and we have 11 regionals. So we just, in Sacramento, our kid won, and the mom called, and turned out this kid's senior project was a Hall of Fame for the fallen officers in Folsom, California. And there's an event on July 2nd where the chiefs and the mayor and city council and everyone's coming out to unveil this project. And she said, you know, we think it would be great if you could come there and present your scholarship. Well, bingo, you know. I think if we sat down and said that's what we want to do, we'd probably not want to do it. It's not impossible. So pay attention to those opportunities. Make sure you're following up, and see what works from there. I think next is Deborah.
Mm-hmm. Those are great insights, Jerry, and it kind of hit home when he talked about know who you're talking to and who the trade magazine's audience is, because I had a perfect example of that just last week, a week before last, we had the NFPA show in Chicago, and I was on the press list. And so I get a lot of calls for people so I can come visit their booth. And this particular manufacturer set up an appointment with me, and when I went to their booth, I found out that they only sold their product through distributors, but the companies who installed had to be distributors. So those wouldn't be the alarm dealers and installers, so those weren't my audience. I was a little, I mean, it was okay. I mean, that kind of thing happens, but that was a PR firm calling me on behalf of this particular company and pitching me and telling me to come to the booth, which I did anyway. They had a lot of interesting products there, but again, it wasn't really for my particular market. And I think that's one of the important things that Jerry said. You really try to find out about the magazine, who their target audience is. I mean, even though we all have security in our names and of our publications, and there's a lot of different publications, we do specialize in different areas. I mean, I like to think that we focus a little bit more on the integrated system solution side of the business, and so we focus on that. But as far as opportunities, we really do have a lot of different opportunities, and I think that there must be some manufacturers in the room too. Can we see by a show of hands? Or okay, so we have some manufacturers. So there's opportunities both for alarm dealers and manufacturers. As far as the manufacturers are concerned, we're looking for vendor-neutral pieces that talk about technology and that help educate my readers on what's new in technology, what a technology can do to help them provide better service to their customers, anything like that. So. And it is vendor neutral, but usually at the end of the story, you'll get a bio with your headshot and the name of your company. So, I mean, and then people will refer to your website, and it's great when you can establish yourself as an expert in the field. And as far as alarm dealers and systems integrators, we don't really get that many calling us for opportunities. We do occasionally, but I would love to have more calling me and presenting me story ideas, or maybe that you've done a cool installation at a college or retail, or maybe you've installed a managed access system. It could be video, anything that showcases what you're doing. And I mean, that's really a perfect way for you to get the message out to what you're doing. And I know it's to other alarm dealers, but still it's helping you showcase your work out in the field. So there's those types of opportunities, case studies, installation stories. If we can get the end user to talk, that's great. If you don't have the writing expertise, all I need is the lead, somebody to talk to at the company, your company. Maybe it's the president of the company, maybe it's the installation supervisor, and then perhaps the end user, the supervisor at the school or whomever, to get their opinion on how the system helped them solve a challenge in the field. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking for. And if you feel like you're a writer, we're always looking for contributed columns and technology articles. One of the things that I think I see is missing right now, we're constantly concentrating on the technical side of the business, but we're failing to talk about the business side. And I think a lot of the people want to know, how do others do business? What are they doing with contracts? What are they doing with contracts that aren't paying on time? What are they doing about attrition? Things like that. I mean, those are really cool things that your peers want to hear about what you're doing, because there's really, I mean, we've got, of course, this organization here that focuses on that and the Leadership Summit, but it seems like there's really a need for that type of article and information now. And so we're looking for the expertise for the manufacturers, expertise in the field, how-tos, for example, how to approach the government market, GSA schedules. I mean, that's always a big question mark. Again, how to develop a business plan, and case studies on installation, like I said. And when in doubt, just call the editors. I think we're all open to call or an email and just to say, I've got this going on, what do you think? And many times we're happy to do the story, or a lot of times what I do with people who are not really well versed at writing is I'll give them questions, and then I'll have them answer the questions, and then I'll put it in a Q&A type of article, which is, it's easy for me and it's easy for them too. So it kind of sets up your outline for the story, and it's a simple way to get your story across. We also do company profiles. We have a new thing called Integrator Insights, where we talk about a company and we talk about, just some of the particulars of their business, where they're located, who their core business market is. Everybody, it seems like a lot of people are focusing on vertical markets now, and our magazine does follow vertical markets. We have an editorial calendar I'm happy to send to people, but in addition to what's on the editorial calendar, we also cover other stories, anything that's really needed out in the field. As an editor, I feel that my job is to try to educate those in the marketplace as far as what's going on, and I look to my readers to help me do that because I'm not in the field installing, so I don't have that expertise, but I can gain it from everybody in the field. There's other opportunities when you have acquisitions, general company news, new hires, you're doing work in the community. I know Erica here from Security Girl, she does a lot in the community, and she puts that on her Facebook, and she sends out releases and things like that. And our website is securityinfowatch.com, and we are constantly looking for news for that. We don't do as much news in print because, as we say now, that news is not news in print anymore because it's on the web earlier. So, but we're happy to put things online. I mean, just tons of opportunity. Your work and participation in local and national associations, any type of Chamber of Commerce awards that you've won. I mean, it just runs the gamut, and anything that you can do to get your name and your brand out there, I think will help you. And it might not seem like it in the small scope of things, but when you start branding your company and getting your name out there, then people, maybe when they're ready to move to a service provider, they'll say, oh, I remember that company. I'm going to give them a call and see what they have. I think it's all about, recognition out in the marketplace. We have some programs. I know a lot of the industry publications have different awards programs, recognition programs for manufacturers and dealers. The one that I started last year is the Fast 50, and I brought a few reprints here. And basically, it's for any company that can show 3 consecutive years of growth. And what we do is we use those numbers in a formula to determine the top 50. And so you don't have to be a large company to be in this particular program. There's other programs out there, but you have to be big companies, and you have to have millions and millions in revenue. But we have all size companies, and this is another great way to get recognized in the industry, and we've had really good response from this program. As a matter of fact, in the second year, we had a few people that didn't make it into the listing, and they followed up with me and said, how come I didn't make it? So then you kind of know that you have arrived a little bit. Let's see, and social media is one of the big areas, and I'm learning about it. Everybody's learning about it right now. The Google Analytics change all the time, and so you just have to keep trying the search engine optimization and see what keywords are going to drive people back to your website. I think that's the key. That's what we try to do as a company, is to try to drive people back to securityinfowatch.com. And that's what you should be doing, is driving people back to your website, getting that traffic. And then there are many different tools to find out about the analytics. The Google Analytics is one. When you use the Hootsuite to schedule social media, you can get analytics from that. You can find out what time of day is best to send messages. And then you've got the Twitter, of course, and Twitter is informational. You have to keep it to 140 characters, which can be difficult, and which is why people abbreviate a lot with Twitter. But one warning about Twitter is that you don't want to spam them with that. You want to keep it real informational. Maybe you just did a cool installation and you want to note that, or maybe you got noted for some kind of community service award, or once in a while you can do things on new products. But I think a good way to do this is talk about security and safety messages in the summer, things to do when you're traveling to make your home safer, or check with the NFPA. They always have in the fall about the change your smoke detector batteries. and just different things like that to educate your particular prospects and customers, and to establish yourself as a leader in the field. Then there's also the LinkedIn, and you can establish a company page on there. You can be part of a group. And really all of this, I think you just have to learn by doing, and just play around with it and see what works for you. And the other thing is to keep people engaged. You have to regularly post things. You can't just, do it once a month. You have to do it like once a week, I think, or at least maybe a couple times a week. And we did some analytics at our company, and we found that the time, usually late afternoon is a good time to do posts. The analytics just seem to be there that would you do something, 4 or 5 o'clock when people have kind of settled down from the day's tasks. It's a good time to do some tweeting, or to put some things on Facebook, which is another thing that you can use. And Facebook is a little bit lighter, but it seems like the younger generation is really embracing Facebook. And I think that they're looking to Facebook for recommendations of service providers. I mean, I think it's a great way for you to kind of toot your own horn, kind of keep it light, or maybe talk about an accomplishment of one of your employees, one of your installers, one of your central station dispatchers, anything like that. And you can also talk about the safety and security tips, contests, things like that. One of the newest things from Facebook that I just found out is that they're now doing hashtags, which, and I just learned about it yesterday, but that it helps link it to all the analytics, all the mobile devices, to all the trending issues. And I have to learn more about it. And the other thing that I did, Jerry printed this out for me. I got this from Website Magazine, and it's on all these new emerging social media sites. And some of them might be pertinent, but some of them might not. It's good to kind of try to keep up with these and see what might work well for you and your market and your customers and your prospects. One that I think is probably the Pinterest, which isn't on here, and that one is, I think that's more for kind of hobby, but I think it might somehow evolve into more of a security industry tool. So it'll be interesting to watch how these different social media sites evolve, and they will continue to evolve too. Google Analytics, free. You can, just Google it and, figure out, how your tweets are being accepted, out in the field, what kind of views you're getting, if you're driving people to your websites. And let's see, other things I've done on Twitter is I cross-promote, is that in Twitter I'll say, like me on Facebook, or like our company on Facebook. And on Facebook I'll put a link to a story that I've done on Security Info Watch. So there's a lot of ways to cross-promote between these different mediums. Let's see what else. And the only other thing is with regards to the social media, I had a chance to talk to an attorney here, and there is a word of warning, is that there are legal ramifications with regards to social media, and it is considered advertising, so it's subject to the rules of the Federal Trade Commission. So you have to be careful about what you're putting on social media. And you have to have disclosures, and you have to worry about things like intellectual property and defamation. I'm not trying to, turn you off from these. It's all good, but just, be really cognizant of all these different issues. And again, I think keep it light and try it, and keep trying all the different mediums out there. Ralph?
Yeah, Ralph, do you want to say a few things?
Is this on? Oh, good. I've been asked to talk about working with editors in the trade publications and consumer, but you know what, we're not going to talk about the consumer magazines because I have no idea about those. So in the trades, in ours, there's 5 or 6 well-known trade magazines. I grew up in the old newspaper era. I'm not saying I'm old, but that's the era that I grew up in. And print publications are struggling with new media. We use new media to, as Deb mentioned, to post our news. We want people to know about it today. Print publications, I work 60 to 90 days ahead. And so that's necessary for you to know. I get pinged all the time. Today's June 20th, something like that. I'm sure I've gotten an email from somebody saying, I see you have this topic in the July issue. Can we talk about that? It's not happening. I'm working on August and September right now. We just have to work that far ahead. So news is not really something that we discuss in the print publication. Deb mentioned Pinterest. We use at Security Products or at securitytoday.com. We use Pinterest to post promotions within companies, new CEOs, new salespeople. We're glad to have that stuff. Always send a photograph when you promote somebody or whatever. You want to highlight that person. We want you to highlight that person. We want you to be able to see who that is. I learned a really cool lesson about 22 years ago. I was on the PR side, working with the media, working with editors. I worked for an incredible PR firm. You remember 23 years ago was the first Gulf War. I worked with a PR firm called the U.S. Air Force. And we worked with editors all over the world. And at that time, I had a certain number of editors assigned to me. I was a public affairs officer. And I learned a lot of valuable lessons about being an editor at that point in time that helped me today. Here's a very good piece of information, because phone calls aren't really good for me personally, but you can get me by email 24 hours a day. And so if you want, my email address is rjensen, rjensen, at 1105media.com. I do travel a lot, but the nice thing about email is it's on my phone, it's on my iPad. In a year it might be right here on my hand. I don't know, who knows. And to me that's very effective, communications. And I'll probably get back to you a lot quicker if you'll just send me an email and say, this is what I'm thinking. And for me, don't be bashful. If you think it's news, it is news. If you think it's newsworthy, it is newsworthy. And we have a place for it. It may not be in the print publication. I think on my headstone will be, he finally converted to social media. It's been a hard thing for an old guy like me to really embrace. But I have some really good editors, young people who understand social media, understand the value of it. And it's a very cool opportunity to be able to share information with you, with your audiences, right now, very quickly. As far as, I can really only tell you what I like to do as far as being an editor is concerned. Security Products is basically a product technical magazine. We look for the newest products available, and that's what we really publish. 6 times a year we have a publication within that news delivery system called Dealer Strategies, and it is published and printed only for the dealer integrator market. We run it on the presses with the magazine. When we finish that circulation, we stop the presses, pull those pages off the press, and finish the run of the magazine. So only the dealer integrator is getting Dealer Strategies. We just felt like it was necessary to communicate with this channel because we felt like the dealer integrator had a different story to tell. They had different issues that they were concerned about. Deb mentioned some of them. They're true issues about how to run a business, about how to make payroll, about how to finance something, new equipment or something like that. And we find experts in the field to contribute articles. And then we just work with them editorial-wise to get it in the magazine to fit our profile. Most publications go by what is called the Associated Press style. We're not any different. We use AP style. We also have something called Ralph style. It's a little bit different.
It's a hammer.
And, you know, there are just some words that I don't like. I don't like the word utilize. It doesn't even exist in my vocabulary. I'm surprised I even said it. And there are some words like that that, you know, we just want things to fit in our style. I'm always looking for dealer strategies. I'm always looking for a cover story. A cover story varies, and I try. Right now, I'm looking for January's issue cover story. I feel like I need to work that far out so that I can get good photography and do the interview. And I don't have an editorial calendar for the cover. I really depend on folks like you to feed me ideas, and once we start talking, we'll just develop that. And that's how I work the cover story. The rest of it, like Deb and her magazine, we have an editorial calendar that we work off of. It's not set in stone. That's one of the cool things about being Ralph, is if I want to change it, then it changes. But I really depend on the manufacturer, the end user, the dealer, the integrator, to give me ideas and to feed me stuff. I know that email is a little impersonal. It kind of is. But man, I just love email. It just works for me. And that's the best way to get a hold of me and everything. We also have, like Deb's, well, similar to Deb's Fast 50, we have a new product of the year contest for manufacturers. We're kind of right in the midst of that right now. We started that 5 years ago. And it's been very successful for the product side to go after and find the newest of the new products, how they work, why they work, and then honor those people who win. We have the luxury because we have our pages are bigger, we have a bigger format. That's a European tabloid. We will print a lot of products every month, and we'll print every entry for our new product of the year award, because these are people who have paid to enter. They deserve the recognition of their new products, in my opinion, and we want to give them that. The winners of the contest have other benefits, but we're very fortunate and very grateful for you in this industry and your willingness to talk to us and to help us move along. I can't speak for Deb, but I'm going to. We've known each other quite a while, and we depend on you to help us, and we get a lot of good. You're a great resource for that. We appreciate that. It says that I need to talk about relationships beginning with hello. I have no idea what that means.
All right. Goodbye then. Well, I think Ralph touched on it, and as we were getting ready for this, he talked about these, Ralph, they're editors of major magazines. You now know them. There's other editors out there you don't know, but email them. I think email is the best. I encourage that. Couple things. Who knows the editor of their weekly newspaper in their neighborhood, their weekly, or so you know that? So like I was the editor of a weekly newsletter or a weekly newspaper in LA for 4 years, and that's a great source. And we did a lot of work with the businesses, security companies, alarm companies, whatever. The good news is you're not cable TV or satellite dish or anything. You're a public safety service. You're part of that, and it's evergreen. It's back to school, holidays, vacation times, things like that. There's four times a year. We call it evergreen, where it's going to come back every year. You can go Google the National McGruff the Crime Dog. There's a lot of public space things that you can take and integrate, and you put together 3 paragraphs, and here's 3 tips for this, and you've all seen it, but you do it in your neighborhood, and you become, we had one editor, and we called it first reference. So if there was an alarm company in Westlake Village and something came up, you'd pull that file, and that's who the person. So take advantage of that. I said be organized. I'll give you an example. Valley Alarm, which is Bob Michael is a national vice president now, but this was 10 years or so after 9/11. They're a smaller company then. They did the first big contract in California to put CCTV on the Terminal Island Bridge in the Port of LA, San Pedro. He called me and said, I want to see if you can help us get a story written by one of the national trade magazines, and it was an interesting project. And I said, of course, we talked, and why did he want that? He wanted it because he's a small company, and he wanted a reprint, like Deb showed you, that he could put in his sales kit that made him look like a big guy. So we went to work, and we had him do the things, and that's my job as the PR person, was to manage him through that process, get the photos. Everything was Palco in those days. And they had slats of Palco. I said, take pictures of the Palco stuff. And they did. And I was just trying to get a ticket to B.B. King at ISC West, but it also served a purpose. So, but we did that, and so we prepared it, and we worked. I was like Scott Goldfein from Security Sales, and I was upfront about why I wanted it. If you think this is a good story, and I'm a soft PR guy, but I'd like to have a full-page picture on this side, because I'm thinking reprint, how it'll look. So that it worked, but the end of the story is we're ready to go, and in September, I think, something happens. His cover falls out of August, and he calls me and says, if you can get everything to me tomorrow morning, you can I want to put you on the cover of the August issue, which then happened to be the ISC issue. So this we did, and the small company in LA ends up on the cover with their artwork, their photo, and a big story, and that's the big reason. Then the best thing is Palco called. They'd never been on the cover of a trade magazine. Then they reprinted it, and they have a big magazine that goes global. So what does that do for you? Well, he had a very specific thing. He wanted, when a guy is sitting there, a prospect is looking at a large national company or a large regional company or a small, he thought that would help him play in that area. So keep that in mind when you're sending stuff out. I'd also say, do the 1, 2, 3 tips for keeping safe on Halloween. They're out there. Just put your name on there. They'll be happy to do it. We have an alarm company in Santa Monica, LA, and he does an annual Oscars, the best of electronic systems in the movies, best representation of it. And then he has the duds. So if they do something, Born Identity, and they misrepresent what the products do, they point that out. But they also point out the coolest things that are being done in movies. And he's got an Oscar winning director who happens to be a buddy, and so he makes that his little thing, and he gets a little play out of it. I think we are going to do, and I'll give you our website, or I'll give you an email, info@snnonline.com, and they mentioned the media calendars. I don't know, I usually deal with a dozen. We didn't do it last year, but we consolidate all the media calendars for all of the lead publications, and then we put that out, and we'll have it in probably September. When everyone gets their stuff, and then we put that out in a spreadsheet, and then we send that out 3 months ahead of time. So I'm sitting here June, you would be looking at your October editorial calendar, and it's done it's not complete, but it's done in a way that you can see your keywords: access control, CCTV, integrator, installations, applications, school, whatever they do, and we pull those out, and so that's available, and that'll be on the website probably in September. You'll start seeing if you send us an email and just ask us to be on that list. If you're a member of the ESA or you're a manufacturer, use the same email. Send me your press releases, and we get it in the state association newsletters. So once we're done here, everyone come up to the front. I'll take a picture of you with Deb and Ralph, and I'll run it in the newsletters, because I can do that. That's the journey. So if you want to get your first big hit for, I don't know what security people, we call it clucks, but you could call it something else. But I don't know. Is there any in the audience? I want to know, is there any success stories? Is anyone, either where you get local press or trade press, has anyone done that or have something to tell us?
I've been contacted several times by media because they have a question about how something works in security. They always seem to have trouble finding companies willing to talk to them.
Right.
Yep.
And then willing to have a place to go see it and film it. I wanted to know more about press releases out there? Do they work? I've gotten a lot of FaceTime out, 4 or 5 times I've been on TV maybe, and get some name recognition. I don't really know if it's created much business.
Well, I mean, the normal press releases, who, what, when, where, why, and I write press releases and they read press releases. So I'll tell you what I think. You know, we go real tight, get your lead up in the front. I edit my little newsletters. I read the first 2 sentences and I take the last sentence for more information. Everything in the middle, I'm not a really good editor for trade purposes, but that's what I do. So that's my thing, is real basic, straightforward, not flowery, is DMP here? I saw DMP. Oh, good. Well, then I can talk about it. Digital monitoring products, comma, the leading,
We cut that out right away.
Yeah, boom. Yeah,
Sorry.
You get DMP, So that's it. So I understand that sometimes you write press releases for the sales guys, for their sales kit, and, for your prospects or whatever you do. For the holiday card every year, you slip one in, and you want to expand. But for straight news editing, read the newspaper, read the magazines, that's what they're printing. Mm-hmm. So don't overthink it, don't overwork it. You know your product, service, what you're announcing, mm-hmm. and do it straightforward. If you miss it at some point, they'll get back to you. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah,
Did that
definitely.
help?
I think that one page, just keep it succinct. If you have photos, like Ralph mentioned that, really critical. And because we all have websites now, and we're trying to generate new content for those websites every day. So we're always looking for press releases. I get a lot more press releases from manufacturers than I do from systems integrators and alarm dealers, even though it has gotten better over the years. So I'm happy about that. But and photos for print have to be high resolution, but for web they can just be low res photos.
Is there a common place where you can put the press release where all the people go to look for these in the media? They look for these things, or you have to go to their ABC's website, find a spot where you email each one of them?
Are you talking nationally or local or
Right.
local?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, in the broad sense, the services are PR, Newswire, and
Yes,
business.
Yeah.
or
Those
PR
are broad,
web.
and those are, you can get them statewide, sometimes regionally. If you're working in California, then maybe use that service $400 to $500. There's some little lesser ones.
I'd rather just get it from you.
Yeah.
I mean, I get Business Wire and PR Wire.
Yeah.
But I scan it so quickly that, I may fall right over yours. If you send me a press release, I'm going to read it. I'm going to send it to the proper editor in my staff, and they're going to do something with it.
If that's your aim, or if you want to do it locally, just, go to some of the local, the local newspaper.
Branding.
Yeah, right. And I mean, perfect example, local newspapers, I mean, they're always looking for content on their websites now too. Just get to know the local newspaper editor, Chamber of Commerce, a lot of these different, business organizations, business networking organizations have newsletters and websites, and I think everybody's always looking for content now.
Well, I think, too, the best referral sometimes is law enforcement.
Oh,
fire
that's
service.
a great one, law enforcement.
Someone gets broke in, whether they say they
Yeah.
come help out and take care of the people and said, well, here, you need to look at a alarm system. So that's why I said that's where you get out there and talk, make sure your chief knows you, make sure your fire
alarm
chief knows
coordinator,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, and then if something comes up and it's wherever your community is, it's maybe small, but major market stuff, and we deal with it nationally too. You want to be the person to get the call. And I, as a California Alarm Association, I get the call when there's a national issue that kind of relates to an industry trend or something. And they don't necessarily talk to me, but I'm the PR guy that gets them to our president or whoever that is doing that. And I would say, years ago, probably 20 years ago, at an ISC in Anaheim, Dateline NBC shows up. And I had a client, and they were very excited. The whole floor was excited. And I checked it out, and I just told my guys, no. And it was kind of a hit piece. They came in and did some stuff, so don't be overly excited. You have to be careful. You have some liability issues. A lot of companies will not talk on the record about this. I did work years ago, NACC, which has now been absorbed, and magazines had Central Station issues every
Yes.
year, so we knew it was coming. And the deal was you send in your little note and everyone gets coverage, and then they wanted a cover photo, and everyone got to submit. And they went, and then they would pick the art editor. They'd throw it to the art editor. Art editor got to pick. So what did we do? They're getting 30 pictures in, and they're going to pick one. So I got the head of photography at the Orange County Register, which is a big newspaper. I talked to the editor about what the theme was for that thing. We had a little discussion about that. Talked to the art director. What are you thinking? And they tell you the masthead goes here. So we went in, and then we shot. If it was on training in the industry, we shot that photo in their Central Station, almost like we art directed it. So we went overboard, and then we delivered that. And then the art director, and then, I saw a lot. The first time I worked with NACC, the GM took a picture, and it was a great picture, a fisheye, because this will be really cool. But all the subject was in the back, and right in the front was all this empty space, and there was his extra lens from his camera. So that's not going to make the cover of most magazines. So, but
Yeah, it's a PR thing. We lucked into this, and when I was doing it, I didn't realize it was PR. We were playing around with some camera technologies in the Gulf of Mexico and having beach cams up on the condos, and then we were playing around with it. It's still our property, but without realizing, we went and gave access to all the news stations in Mobile and Pensacola.
Right.
And so they would occasionally look at it, and it wasn't a big deal. But when the storm started coming, when Katrina came, all of a sudden our cameras were extremely valuable, and they were able to see flooding. We were able to turn pan-tilt zoom cameras to the backside and see roads flooded, and the whole island's evacuated, so no one's there. And so we had really cool footage, and so we had then 3 years later, a series of burglaries in 3 neighborhoods. We had 1 license plate recognition camera in this neighborhood. Caught only one of the houses of the 8 was in our neighborhood, and we somehow got a call from the police saying, "We understand you have a license plate recognition system in this neighborhood." And I said, "Sure, what's license plate users like to see?" I said, "Well, we're looking for this code from Mobile, Alabama." Pull up all those license plates up. It was Thanksgiving night. They knocked off 8 houses in 3 neighborhoods. We found the truck. Then the police took the public cameras on the Bay Bridge and time-stamped it and found the truck going all the way back, found neighborhood cameras in Mobile, tracked it back to a neighborhood where there were 3 mini-storage warehouses, subpoenaed all 3 mini-storage warehouses. Within 48 hours, they found all the product that was stolen in 8 houses, and it was all based on us having that 1 license plate. When the news people found out it was us, they kind of went, "Well, you're the guys that gave us the Katrina footage." And we ended up getting a cool story on the 10 o'clock news.
Right.
And now, fast forward a few months, we're manufacturing license. We were using other people's crappy product to do this thing, and now we realize people are coming to us as the experts. And back then, that was not a good product. And now we're building high-end products ready for launch, for manufacturing. So we kind of lucked into it, and that PR has evolved our company into something we didn't even realize was going to happen.
when I just say, I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking, if you were an association member, I'd want to run it. You probably thought you got your local media coverage and print, but it's a great story. Maybe it's an application. It's kind of a fun news. You're part of the news. It happens. There's a lot of things that go on with that. But I'd also say, I think the basic thing on that is, just start. Just do it. You don't have to think about it. I worked with a Central Station in Florida. I won't mention it. But they were doing a news release, and they'd had it for 6 months. And they finally called us and said, "Would you do this?" So we get our guys on it, and it's knocked out the next day. And but then that same group of people that took 6 months to write a news release
Took 6 months to review it.
never actually signed off on the thing. So don't overthink it. Just go. It's real basic. We might get some things out if you send us an email, just some basic tips, but they're available out there. You don't want to for most of you can do it yourself. It's relationships.
Keep it basic, and then just give them a way to get in touch with you if they are educated.
Yeah, if they know. Look, I get calls. I get consumer calls, LA Times, or we had a big deal in, well, we deal with some public policy issues. This is fun. It's the week of, it's the Wednesday between Christmas and New Year's, and the chief, I forget even what city, he decides we're not going to respond to alarms starting January 1, and he mails it out on December 27th, and so it just explodes in the media. And I'm the only one working between Christmas and New Year's, and you cannot find any members because they take that time off. And they wanted to, but that we had to be ready as an association. Then we go to our leadership, and we have to talk, and who's willing to talk, and who's willing. And if they're going to talk, we have to background them and brief them and stuff like that, and make sure they're careful of how you frame the question and how you answer the answers, and all that gets a little complex. But you don't have to do that. You have to you have to write. If you get the Rotary of the month, you send that little news release out.
Exactly.
And send your picture and take a little picture of that. And if you have a weekly newspaper or business notes or in communities, they run those things. If you get written up in Ralph or Deb's publication, put a release on that you were featured in that national magazine. That's exciting for a small, from this frame. So just kind of do that, do those kinds of things, and you'll be okay. I think we're about, I apologize, I wore the suit all day, but I'm going to Vince Gill at 7:30. I couldn't get back to the hotel, so I apologize for the look, but I look pretty good in this. Huh? Yeah, well, it's $27.50. You can go walk and get a ticket. It's probably the best thing I could ever recommend. I did, because you get to sit down. It's Vince Gill. It's like bluegrass. I went to the Rolling Stones 2 weeks ago in L.A., and it's 3 hours, and I saw them in '72, and I'm old now. And you can't help it. You have to dance and sing, and I don't know why I know all the words, but I said, but they're good. About every 7 or 8 songs, they play a slow song so you can sit down, And then I told everyone at the office, I kind of bent over a little bit and grabbed above my knees and kind of did this. I said, this is the new dance. About an hour and a half into a concert, that's my new dance. But anyways, thanks for that. Any closing comments on that, or no? So.
Yeah, Eric.
I can tell you, this year was our second year on the Fast 50 list, and we sent out a press release, and I was just trying to get into local papers, get some recognition, and I got a call. I hadn't heard anything from anyone. I called, followed up, whatever, with all the local editors, ones that I knew, and she calls me back and said that her editor had some sort of an emergency, and now they're wanting to feature us in a new business magazine and make it a cover story. So it's been like, what, 2 or 3 months? It seems like forever.
Yeah, it was April, but yeah.
But it's because they're trying to figure out what they want to do with it. It's too big to do a small column, but they're just trying to figure out what to do and how to make it work.
Yeah, you just stay, and you never know what will happen.
Yeah.
You'll never know what happened, but it's networking. It's whatever you do. If we're finished, I have one final thing. I live down kind of in Marina Del Rey. It's on the beach community in LA, and Catherine was my neighbor, and she's a singer-songwriter, and we have a dive bar right at the pier, and she's singing at 4 o'clock Sunday. And so I go through the neighborhood and tell everybody, Catherine's singing at the Whaler 4 o'clock Sunday, $5 Mai Tais. And they go, oh, we like Catherine, and we'll show up. And they like Mai Tais. They like that they're $5. And so we get there, and the place is jammed, because beach community. So we're just there hanging from the rafters. Catherine's happy. The bar's happy. People came up to me and said, this is great. She's great. It's a great place. And these Mai Tais are superior. And the guy said, how much are these Mai Tais when she's not singing? And I said, well, $5. So is that marketing, PR, promotion? I don't know what it is, but do it.
Yeah, that's
but
right.
Thank you all for the end of the day. Enjoy the rest of the time in Nashville. We'll be at the karaoke bar about 10 o'clock tonight after Vince Gill. And Ralph's got a specialty. He's more of a dancer than a singer.
Ralph is singing.
But thank you very much. Now you can applaud for all of them. So. Done? Oh, I should trim this up.